Yeah, I almost got all my matchup above 50% now, so I'm kind of happy how it's going at the moment.
That's great. I mean, the last time we did coach was about 2 weeks ago or so. Actually, maybe even a bit longer than that. When was it? Let's look at the date.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yep, almost exactly. So, we left you with some very different homework, right? Where I was kind of like, hey, let's try and change it up a bit, and that sort of stuff. So, what's happened in the in between? What's the focus been for you as a player? And
Um,
where? Yeah, how's
I
it gone?
I wasn't quite too sure how to start the homework. I mean, I was sure. I mean, I had to cheese. I already had a second account, and yeah, I tried to cheese on the account, but it was quite hard in the beginning. But then it was kind of fun thinking about what to do and how to yeah, confuse enemies and yeah, get rid of some basic macro play and just cheese the hell out of enemies was, yeah, fun.
So
Was hard.
yeah. So how much did you stick with it just for a day or two? Have you been doing like some days you get on your macro account and you play macro, other days you play cheese? Has it been all very aggressive cheesy play?
Was like every second day I cheese played like 5 6 games on the cheese account and then back to macro and yeah.
Awesome. All right, that's a good way of doing it. Like obviously I mean if you sink purely into the cheese and do it every game, that's not bad because you start really thinking about all these creative ways of doing things. But already 5 or 6 games a day on a separate account, you can separate it from your main MMR. It's such a good exercise for getting you out of your comfort zone, right? Just forcing you to play those messy games, right? The macro ends up
Yeah,
in these weird situations all the time, and it forces you to get more comfortable spending your money and choosing clear directions and being decisive in a situation where you're not really sure of exactly what you should be doing, but you kind of just have to choose a direction and go with it really confidently, right? Because you don't really know everything that's going on.
at the beginning it was like went too well. I was winning too much and I almost felt kind of bad, like why the hell am I even playing macro games? And yeah, then it got to the normal level and yeah.
This is a very common thing, the number of people in the last year who've gone, oh, I started counter rushing, I got higher than my main account. And I'm always like, yeah, um, don't get me wrong. That there's people who are like objectively terrible at StarCraft who do like a 1-1-1 barracks factory starport, make marines, make tank, make a liberator, make a medevac, and they go across the map and they get to GM with that low GM on NA, and they kind of cap out there for the most part, but they're still occasionally beating like 5,700 MMR players, and I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at right now?
Well,
There's always an
I
easier
decided,
way of doing that. Yeah.
yeah, the easier way for me actually was proxying whole buildings like Tasia did. So I just started cheesing and then saw his games and was like, yeah, looks fun. Try.
That's one which can work very well and can fall apart very quickly, but definitely it's an old classic. So today, are we going to be focusing just on your macro play and helping that improve? Are we going to look at any of your cheesy games or review those? What do you feel like focusing on?
Cheesy games is, I don't know. It's not really worth actually, in my opinion, to look at it. At the moment I'm more struggling with my macro TvZ because sometimes I got a good opening with my build order and then I feel like I can make the next step and finish the game.
Okay. So I do think definitely in the future we should do a session really looking at those more aggressive games and looking at how to plan out your tech transitions better and understand it more and turn it more into a reactive game. Like for instance, if you look at the way Bly plays, is really so reactive to everything he sees. So he's very aggressive and he commits very hard, but I wouldn't call it cheese because he always scouts and then he tries to hard counter their counter. Once they've spotted what he's doing, he changes directions. He's like, yeah, okay, they're responding to this with that. I'm gonna hard counter it with that, and You know, I think that's something which is so valuable for your game understanding. And it's also valuable for, like I said, the reason I wanted you to go cheesy and why I think it's going to be something we probably will need to inundate you more in. If you really want to get better at the game, it will be, and if you don't enjoy it at all, you just don't want to, obviously that's fine. We choose how to play StarCraft however we want. But in terms of like expanding your ability to play StarCraft, I have a strong hunch that that will make you a ridiculously better player. Like, so much better if we can keep improving on that. So maybe for the following week, it would be really cool if you write out some of those cheesy builds and kind of go, okay, well, in this situation, it gets countered by this. Let's take that replay and, maybe you have an idea of what you could change the build into or how you could switch it to try to take advantage of a bad situation. But then we can talk through a bunch of replays like that and break it down. So how does that sound for a future session?
Yeah, sounds good. The problem about my cheese stuff is it's like not really well planned out. It's not like I except for the Teja build, it's all sometimes just made up on the spot. Like, why not try this? And yeah, then I it works or it doesn't work, or I recognize what the real problem is, or why I should time it better, and why sometimes proxy Rex doesn't hit at all, and sometimes for me to defend it is pretty hard.
Yeah. So that's something though where just putting the effort into it, right? This is why part of the reason why I'd rather call it aggressive play as well rather than cheese is because it is something where the moment we say cheese, it's easy to kind of think of it as something that's not worth putting the time into or not worth being as understanding of. But learning those reactions within it is so important. So realizing, oh, this hit really late. I think starting with an intuitive thing is good. You said, I have an idea, maybe I'll just do this. And it's pretty shit the first time. Sometimes it still works, despite being very inefficient, because it is often there's like an inspired idea. We just haven't figured out the details. But if you go back and you kind of iron it out a bit, and it doesn't need to be exact, right? When I'm figuring out a cheesy build, and if you ever see me doing it on stream, you'll notice my build write-ups, and you can look through the Book of Filth, quite vague a lot of the time. Some of them get very, very detailed. If I repeat the cheese many times and I go, you know what, this is like a crazy aggressive build, but it's actually got lots of twists and turns in it. It's actually quite solid if I understand it. Those ones get more detailed, but a lot of my write-ups for cheeses, it'll just be like, okay, seemed like a decent idea. I just need to remember to not get supply blocked at 46 and to drop those 4 barracks because I floated 2,000 minerals while I was microing my 3 battle cruisers in circles around their base, having too much fun killing drones,
Yeah, sounds familiar.
It starts with that stuff, and if you keep playing it, you can add more and more. So it doesn't have to be something where you do a cheesy game and you go, okay, that was kind of loose, but I'm too lazy to spend 25, 30 minutes of hard brain power ironing out what I should have done better. It can be rewind the replay and just look for like a couple small things to make it a bit tighter. And then over time, you add to that list of notes for that build and it turns into something that's very well defined. But the cool thing is, I talked about people who do 1-1-1 to GM. There's people who get to GM with really aggressive low economy play, but infinitely more intelligent than those people who are like, oh, I just like make an immortal and 6 sentries and a warp prism. And I warp into Stalkers, and I go off 7 gateways in every matchup, every game. And I hit the exact same timing, and I don't react to anything. And I've literally taken all decision-making out of StarCraft. Don't get me wrong, that is stupid StarCraft. But yeah, there are some other issues. So anyways, that's something which I, sorry, I have a little PC issue here, one sec. My new monitor hasn't arrived, so just give me 1 moment. I'm just going to write that here as a goal for a future session. So, and I will fix this while we do that. Hey, sorry, I can hear you again. So I'm just gonna have to exit out of that replay. Give me a sec.
Okay.
So basically, my monitor, once every 3 days or so, has screwed up and disconnected, and I just need to unplug it and plug it back in. But because StarCraft is full screen app, it's needs me to reload. So just reopening StarCraft now to get back in there. Apologies for that. So yeah, future session
No
idea,
problem.
and I really like this idea of, and I do think, if you really want to get better at StarCraft, I think it's such a good tool to rip up the floorboards and replace it with an understanding of cheesy play and inundate ourselves with that. So hop out of that replay, and if you could hop out and host that up again. I'm back in BNet. That would
Yeah,
be good.
I still have to wait for you to drop at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you might have to Alt F4. Is it counting
Ah,
down?
no. Oh, I can. Okay.
Okay, sometimes that
Uh,
shit freezes for
um,
like so long. So yeah. But yeah, basically, I would love for you to take that option of literally spend like 2 weeks of just aggressive play, but map out your builds in each matchup, and it can start off really rough, but add those details, and then I would love you to bring me a build or two for each matchup that's quite aggressive and wild, that you've kind of developed from scratch yourself, or maybe you were inspired. You saw Tasia do it and you kind of copied it and came up with your own details of making it work. But that would be really cool. So that being said, if you want to do that in the future, do it. And I think it'll give us, like, honestly, one of the best coaching sessions we've ever done. For now, let's talk about lurkers and macro play and all that. So obviously, I'll just 8x speed this replay and get us back through it. But while we're doing that, you watched the Tasia series. You watched that first game. Any lessons you learned, or any just mindset stuff you normally have when you realize you're facing lurkers in this matchup?
no, I don't meet them too often. Either I'm surprised or I'm prepared. That's one of the two options.
So what's your
Either I already
preparation normally involve?
liberators.
So you like to go quicker transition to libs.
Yeah.
You also think you should have used your banshees better this game, and add a bit more production once your fourth command set is up, because you forgot to do that this game. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of tanks. Libs are not bad versus them, but I've always just enjoyed the tanks because I'm usually already on that production. But libs can absolutely work, and obviously if there's no hydras or vipers around, they have a pretty bad time versus libs. So let's take a look. So you went for a Hellbat Banshee timing this game. Is that your standard at the moment?
For me, yeah.
Let's just go back and check. So with your Hellbat timing, I mean, you said you'd had a little mistake with your barracks and factory swapping over or something this game. I think you said you had a major slip up. Racks and factory switch cost a bit of time. Let's check. What happened there? Do you remember what happened, or?
Oh, I guess it was another game, not this game.
Okay, yeah, good. Because it must have been. Because I'm like, this looks pretty
Yeah.
normal, doesn't it? Okay, good. I was like, am I missing something? Okay, cool. So we got Hellion Banshee. We got that quick third gas. Do you need the third gas?
100% sure. Sometimes I feel like I lack gas at this stage of the game, so I most of the time take it.
I think if you're not going BC, there's no reason for it. Because if you think about it, you're only building Hellions, Cloak, and Banshees. So unless you're going really fast, like Stim, you're never going to really need that gas. So that third gas, I think, is meaningless unless you're doing
Normally
something different.
at this time, Stim should already should already start when I build my second Banshee.
Yeah. So let's just look at the point because I think you might have a very slight delay in something with the armory starting. So check it. Like if you want to go the armory right now, we can't afford it, right? And then if we start the armory now, still on time for your timing attack with your first Banshee and your Hellions. And yeah, I think even without that third gas, you should still have enough for the thing. So, because you're playing bio afterwards, you gotta go third CC is more important. Yeah, I think we're delaying our third CC a lot. So Hellbat Banshee already delays a third command center a bit, but this becomes even more committed. I think we should cut that third gas out of the build. I think that's definitely something we can probably do without. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool.
Just need some trigger point when to set it down, or to take the third and fourth when the third is down.
Yeah, I think that would be it. I think that would be the best way to do it. So I'm gonna write some notes here. I'll write it in line. So pigs notes. So this way I'll write it like kind of underneath your existing notes for each one. Third gas not needed for this build. So what would your order be? It would be third CC, second and third racks, then double eBay. Is that what you normally do? Double eBay next?
Yeah.
And then it would be third and fourth gas. And then it would be fourth and fifth racks, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And because this is a very aggressive opening, and especially if like our Banshees are flying around, our Hellions are darting in, if we're doing a bit more multi-prong or whatever. Obviously, we could just do all 4 barracks at once if we floated too much minerals, because that's, that's something that just makes our life so much easier. So I do remember we've had issues with minerals in the past, so we could always just streamline that and just go like double eBay straight to 4 barracks all at once, or 4 barracks then the double eBay, just to simplify it. What do you prefer? Because I've got that right up there in the notes you can see.
Yeah, sounds good, because also in this replay, fourth and fifth barracks are late, so.
Okay, so should we do the eBays first, and then all 4 barracks, and then the gases, or should we go barracks, then eBays, then gases? What order do you want to do all that in?
I would say after the third, gases, racks, eBays.
Okay, so we'll grab the gases a bit early just to make sure you don't hit a gas choke point. So it'd be third command center, third and fourth gas, 4 barracks, double eBay. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. I think those gases are probably a bit earlier than you need them. Okay. I would prefer they go after the barracks, or...
Sure, why not?
Sorry, I'm just taking a look at it. Let's imagine. Let's look at the build order and imagine. Third gas isn't there. Excuse me. Apologies. Sorry. Bit sneezy this morning. So, third CC would be a bit earlier. That gas wouldn't be there. How about we go double engineering bay, then third and fourth gas, and then 4 barracks all up. Oh, fuck it. I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters. As long as we get them all down in the same order, we'll do what you just said. We'll have a bit of extra gas, and that means it won't be as important to get the gas open on the third. I think what you suggested is totally fine. As long as we hit it in the same order every game, we get good at it, that'll be right. Okay, cool. So we take the third gas out, that'll be nice. So one little thing here, it's good to see that our factory rally point is on the ramp these days, not out front the natural like we used to do way back when. You did forget to rally your starport, which is a shame. Now let's check our production. You did have your production rallied. But yeah, it would have been really nice to have this starport already rallied. Probably, if you go to everyone's camera, probably up here, right? I imagine that would be where you'd normally want to hit with your second Banshee.
Normally I joined up with the main army, so yeah, I missed it at the main army.
It's never going to be ready for your main army push, though, if you attack it this time. Because it's literally just popped out. So by the time it gets there, your main attack will always be done. So rolling a Banshee into somewhere where you've just attacked with a Banshee and a bunch of Hellbats, that's going to be their strongest point of defense. So the second Banshee has to either purely be there to just stop like roach counter attacks, or to go harass a mineral line. I would probably just focus on the mineral line as my way of doing it. So what do you think you want to do with the second Banshee then?
Yeah, eco damage is always good.
So would you go above the natural or down below the third?
The natural, I guess, because yeah, when I attack down the third, the attention is there.
Okay, so when you build that starport, that should be rallied there immediately. And then you can always just grab the first Banshee as it's flying across the map and come join it up with your Hellbats, right?
Yep.
And then likewise, if your Hellions end up getting stuck at home because he's like Ling flooding like a crazy person or something, that Banshee can just be used as a harassment Banshee, and our Hellbats can do a later Hellbat attack or whatever, right? But really important to rally that straight away because, yeah, same thing for me. Anytime it's Liberator, Banshee build, anything like that, if I don't rally it to the position, we're just way more inconsistent at actually hitting the attack, and that's really important. So the other thing as well, because remember we did talk about all 4 barracks at once, and how floating minerals around this point is a big kind of consistent thing that pops up for you. Just remember, don't be too worried about add-on swaps when you do start doing all 4 barracks at once. Just try to be really good at like chuck them all down, come back, start all the add-ons. Really focusing on batching that up is going to be really helpful. That'll make a big difference for you. So other than that, rally starport to harass point immediately on starting it. Your wall off right now. So tell me, is that a solid wall off?
Most likely not if you ask that way.
100% not. So the rule is the depot needs to be, you know, a depot is 2 squares or 2 hexes on the grid, right? Like, do you use the build grid when you place buildings?
No.
So go into your options, gameplay, and make sure you click display build grid. And if you've ever been in the map editor, it'd be very obvious that everything is laid out on basically a board of kind of like chess pieces. But basically,
for me.
It is already on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it would be. So that actually shows a little bit of a grid when you're placing buildings. But essentially, a depot is 2 by 2. So it's 4 of these squares or these hexes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Its dimensions are 2 by 2. So a barracks, a factory, starport, they're all 3 by 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Command center, I think, is 4 by 4, 5 by 5. I don't know. But the point is the entire depot needs to be overlapping. So you see how right now, if you think of this command center as a square and you drag a box around it, it looks like it should be a full wall off with that depot. The problem is the depot needs to be fully, both of its squares need to be overlapping with the command center, or there is always an opening that Zerglings, Marines, and Adepts can get through, even if Hellions can't necessarily. So basically that depot would need to be 1 square to the right, which in this case, the command center is too far down, I think is actually blocking that from happening. But might be, maybe not actually. But basically, if you have the depot here, so if you go to the stream, actually, I'll illustrate for you with my mouse boxing. Tell me when you can see. Because this is actually really important. I was actually talking to someone about this yesterday or the day before. It was actually someone who was playing my Zerg student who kept ruining him with Zergling run-bys. And I was saying, you know, every time he put his command center down, I was like, that's the wrong positioning.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Oh, you did? Yeah. So it's the exact same rule, right? So the depot needs to go here. The depot needs to go here, 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 or any of those is a full wall with the command center. But anytime you're like that, that's not a full wall. You know, anytime it's like overlapping a little bit with 1 square, it's not going to be it. So basically, one of the best ways on most maps is usually you can go a depot on one side, a depot on the other, and then you can just wedge the command center in between. So there's like depot, and the command center just kind of slides in the middle.
Okay.
So you'll get used to it. It's also something where after you've built 2 command centers, 2 depots, if you want to put the CC in the wall, it's usually better to put like, you know, you've usually got the perfect space after 2 depots to squeeze a command center in. And then if you do mess it up with a diagonal like this, which still happens to me as well, where I think it's going to be solid, and then I look at it once it's put down, I go, that's not a solid wall. You need to fill in this last gap, right, where that SCV is standing with 1 more depot. Very important because it's such a fucking sad way to lose a game. And I've lost too many TvZs because of it, which is why I became obsessed with this. I got angry. You know me, that's a big motivator for me. If I get really pissed off at something and I never want it to happen again, that's when I get obsessive and I memorize things, memorize those details. So for me, that's a big motivating force. It'd be really cool if I was someone who did that before I got angry, you know. But for me, it's a problem arises and then I fix the problem. That's my way of doing it. So, anyways, that's just a little note with the wall off. Depot double overlap with the wall off. All right. Anyway, let's get through to the lurker stage now. I think overall, we are floating a bit of money.
Lurkers, also another replay, not this one.
Oh, this is not the lurker replay?
No.
Sorry,
Nope.
which replay are we looking at?
It's the let's see, one. The second one.
TvZ, the same shit?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay, so we just did a bit of a disjointed attack there. But it looks like we are doing some drippy drops. We swapped into mines, interestingly, here. After just one tank for safety, I guess. And we are ruining this Zerg player. But Ultras are going to kill us. And we're on a pure Widow Mine army at this point. Oh my. Cool. I like that you methodically set up a push here. That was nice. But yeah. But now we're getting a bit too horny, unfortunately. Yeah, how to finish the game. Because you're pushing in, but then you couldn't force a fight. Okay, cool. Really good question. So, notice your Widow Mine's like super fucking clumped, right? So a few banelings could kill all your splash damage here. It's also something you're just pushing kind of deeper on creep. So it just gets hard here. You know, you can keep pushing straight towards the natural. But my rule is generally I try to drown the Zerg's economy rather than just forcing the frontal fight. I think once you've set up the push on the front, it's set up a problem and then ruin their economy. So if I was in your situation, I would be sliding drops down into the back of the right and liberators and drops down from my reinforcement point down the left into their space. And I guess I would probably try to unload a drop or a double drop down here or just run them in from that angle and snipe the hatch basically while my frontal push continues. And I would have started trying to do this earlier, basically as soon as I was in range of one of these hatcheries and creating a bit of a problem over here, because I want to kind of assume the Zerg's not going to fight into me, you know. And there's definitely a push and a pull, right, where sometimes you do need to reinforce your army more, but it's all about, you're not about crushing that frontal fight, you're about just trading okay there and distracting them while you open up and hit all their bases. That's usually my MO, my mode of operation, my way of finishing off the Zerg player. What do you think of that? Is that something you've tried before? Is it something you think that'll work? You're open to it? What are your thoughts normally? Or do you just kind of not have a plan at this point and go, please fight into my liberators, which a lot of us do, and the Zerg doesn't do it, and then eventually gets the Ultras and the Vipers and beats us in the late game?
Normally I just go with the flow. It's not like I always do like such a frontal push. I prefer distracting him with one or two pushes at the same time and then do a frontal push when he's distracted. Because it's much easier, but this time, I don't know, somehow it went that way and I stick to it. But yeah, didn't really know how to finish it off and then I kind of kill myself.
So now we've got a plan. It's whenever you've got a good position and the Zerg's not fighting into it, no worries. You can branch off, and even before they're doing that, we're already branching off, queuing up drops and libs to hit their economy, okay? Now...
Yeah.
If they don't engage at all on your main push, what can we do? We can load up drops there and hit the more obvious / more surprising targets. So what do I mean by that? So just wanted you to play out this scenario in your head. Let's imagine you're down here with this army. He's refusing to fight it. You're coming in with drops and libs on this left-hand side of the map and hitting this really important last bit of his economy in the bottom side of the map, right? Suddenly that's going to become a very big focus for both of you as players, and he's going to commit really hard to defending it. And at a certain point, if your other push isn't moving forward, he's basically just ignoring it, right? And that's the point where what normally earlier would have been a terrible target, you picking up 8 Marines and flying them into his main base, picking up 8 Marines, flying them into his natural, or just getting one of these libs and just going... Siege on the third base. Siege on the natural. suddenly that actually becomes a good choice in this position because his attention's more down the bottom left, right? Now, this is also something else which is extremely pivotal is what you can do with this, is snipe the hive tech. Now, that is something where if your opponent's really doing one of these, I'm just not going to fight you, and hopefully over time you get over eager and take a really terrible fight as Terran, which, let's be real, we're Terran players, we're like, fucking fight me, I've been beating you all game, you piece of shit. And then we run in and clump all our Widow Mines or walk 50 Marines on creep into Banes. It happens to all of us, right? And a lot of Zergs are so patient. They just wait for that. They wait for that, right? They want you to get frustrated. But part of what ruins their longevity in the game, their ability to go to the late game, is if you can snipe the Greater Spire, if you can snipe the Hive, even the Spawning Pool and the Baneling Nest are nice, but really it's the Greater Spire, the Ultra Cavern, and the Hive. So any one of those snipes sets them way back. Ultra Cavern, Greater Spire, Hive. And that also opens up another angle, because I've been in the same scenario where I start harassing the bottom left, and then they put it on lockdown because I've done it already, and you can't find more damage, and you get stuck in this mindset of, well, the main base and the natural are actually well protected. Get out of that mindset and just remember that this motherfucker is already stressed as shit having you sieged up in his territory, and you can absolutely start hitting all of his mineral lines and stuff, and overwhelming him from there. So that's like a really nice way of taking advantage. Now, besides hitting his economy, you also can expand your own economy a little bit more aggressively if you've got a good position, right? So trying to build CCs in the corners along the edges, right? So if you can sneak a few extra command centers up, that's incredible. So if we go back to when your push first kind of maintained position in this game and play it out just mentally, not here. It's a few minutes after this is when you really get a good position. So you drop on the rights, bouncing around, you're setting up your Myo Mine. So it's going to be after this fight is where you actually get a crazy good few mine shots and you're in a real nice position. Okay, so as you snipe this base, you've got your 4th on location. Little misplaced, unfortunately, but we've got a 5th CC on the way. We've got an insane SCV count. So we can already say, okay, we would have actually had so much more money if we got that 4th up a little earlier, right? Because we could already have so many workers mining from that. In fact, we could be making use of a 5th base right now as well, couldn't we? Holy shit, we got such a good worker count. That's awesome. Thankfully, we do stop building SCVs here. And this means if we lose 20 SCVs, you've still got a good economy. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. But yeah, at this point, we start dropping down that left-hand side doing that. If it's sometime around here as well, we went command center, command center, command center, command center, assuming we had the minerals for it. Obviously, don't cut unit production. So maybe it just starts as dropping 2 command centers, 1 on each side. That would be friggin' huge, right? That would be really awesome.
Yeah, that was, I think, one thing that stuck from the Teja series in my mind, that he was building like trillion of CCs around the map.
Especially against lurkers, because they're very immobile, and it's like playing TvT, you know? We see a lot of TvT now where players just defend. They don't want to attack anymore. Because it's like, you got a defender's advantage. I'm just going to take more command centers and like have my tank siege. And it's kind of the same with lurkers. They like want you to fight into them. To a lesser extent, a Zerg player who's being very, just wait, please come on creep, let me use my defender's advantage. It's definitely ones which can go kind of rough. Oh my lord. That Zerg counter attack was brutal. Holy shit. Oh man, ouch. But yeah, okay, cool. So the other thing is, so getting those drops going is really nice. It's also often going to push them to actually engage you a little bit quicker. What about continued bioproduction? So let's take a look at your fundamentals at this point. So even before, sorry, after that 4th snipe, because the 4th snipe I think was the moment where we should have taken a breath. So here's where things turn in our favor really hard. We jump on it to take advantage. Now this is a crazy move, that much red bio. I like it though. Little high risk, but we just killed his army. I think that was a good high risk move, right? Moving forward with your bio. Really proud of that one. But I think this is the point where we needed to take a little bit of a breath. Going for the hatch is cool. We are building Marines. We are building a 5th CC. I guess this kind of played in from the other previous play. we see it turns pretty south there. So that run to the right was definitely overeager. So I think in that scenario, we've killed a hatch, pull back to the mines, and just set up. Bring your extra army across, let your medevacs do their healing, join up, and then we can continue to do stuff, right? So I think just try to make sure you get better at identifying, hey, I've already done damage, but you've already at this point been staring at the front for like a solid 2 minutes, right? So there should really be alarm bells going off in your head that, yeah, you've been macroing off your hotkeys quite well, but you've kind of... So this push starts at, okay, I guess it's about 10 minutes, maybe not 2 minutes, but a minute and a half or so. You're kind of watching your army, right? Oh, dude. Oh my God. Okay, combat shields is almost done, but bit of a messy engage here as well. This was real shame, because if you had 3 tanks alive with your push, that would have been great. So what went wrong with that push? Because it looks like you'd A-move them all the way into his territory, whereas we probably should have been A-moving them up here where that tank is as our staging zone, right? Like on the top side where your top tank is. I'm not really sure why these units were attack moved so far. Do you think that was just a misclick, or do you think you were just kind of going, hey, he's busy with the drop, let's dive in there and see if we can get a greedy siege up?
Actually, not sure. I thought I'd rally every unit to the same position, but somehow they split up.
Well, if we look at it, I can select these units. I think they were rallied to the same position, but it's clearly too deep in the enemy territory. I'm looking for where that attack command went. Scouring the map for a little red or green dot that tells us where the movement or attack command went. Since I can't see.
I don't know what ping is.
So basically, if you select your army over here that's just moving out, you should be able to see where it's being told to move on the map.
I see the red dot, but I have no idea which key ping is.
I found it. Yeah, that's cool. It's Alt G on the minimap, as long as you're on everyone's camera. Yeah, signal it just to show me we're looking at the same thing. Yeah. So we look at that attack command and we go, yeah, you were rallied to the same position, but absolutely the wrong position. And that's not just a misclick. That's just you saying, hey, let's attack into the heart of the Zerg. And at the time when Bane Speed's finished, a very ballsy maneuver, right? Ooh, our 2-2 was very late as well. When do we start that?
Yep.
Oh no, 2-2 not even started by the time we get this push going. Ooh, that's huge. That's really massive. And then then we attack right into the heart of the rally point of the Zerg, which is just madness, right? Where we should have attacked up where this tank is on the north, and then been kind of sieging forward and spreading out, right? Because there's such lovely cliffs on this map, right? That you can set up on, which you could have used, or you could have gone through the middle and used this high ground if we chose to push that path instead, and then kind of set up on that cliff. That's another option, wherever you prefer. I like this top push path though. This rally where you end up getting good fights, such a beautiful little alcove for your tanks and mines. So, I think we've given you a bit of a plan for how to attack, how to finish the game, right? We've talked a little bit about. Obviously that push shouldn't have moved out like that. I do think it's easier to win with like pure biotank versus Hydras because you can just push into it. But at the same time, I really like Widowmine swapping versus Mutiling Bane because I find it's very hard to finish the game with tanks against Mutiling Bane. But I find it's very hard to finish the game with mines against Hydras, even though they can still be very efficient. I'm just wondering what your thought process is, because you went 3 tanks and then you swapped into mines. Was it a reaction to something, or was it something you normally do?
Normally I do 2 tanks, and then into mine.
Okay, and if they go like Roach Hydra, I imagine you'd go back to tanks, but otherwise it's just stick with mines?
Yeah, because I most of the time play versus Lingbane, and then sometimes Nutas and sometimes Hydras at it.
Cool. I like the idea of just having a standard you always do. So I like that. If you like the Widow Mines versus the Banes, fudge, yeah. Cool. That's good to know. All right. So we've got that idea of branching off attacks. I'm watching your marine production now, as well as, like I said, I want you... Okay, so remember I said, okay, that bio force, rather than running for the right-hand side hatch, should have pulled back. I think it's important to have a checklist for this point to catch up on your macro and all your maintenance tasks. So... what is finding the point to take a breath and build your advantage is important, right? So obviously finding that point is very situational, but let's assume you had identified that point. After you snipe that fourth hatch, you pull back, you do it. Once you hit this mid game, kind of after this should be a 2-2 push, right? Let's imagine it's a 2-2 push. What are you normally doing once you first get a moment of breathing room? So if you look at your document, I've started the little list there. Finding the point to take a breath and build your advantage. What is our kind of late game post 2-2? So after 2-2 push, what does our macro list look like? What are the key things we need to remember to add in at this sort of point in the game?
I would say 1 or 2 orbitals and probably
Where do you build those orbitals?
somewhere safe, not too far out. So
Yep.
Yeah, hard to say. Probably at the third. Yeah, I don't get too much space there, but
Yeah, I mean, where you put this command center in the middle is good, right? So you could have squeezed another one in next to that.
no, I couldn't. I tried.
Oh, you could get one below it, but it would kind of wall you off. But if that one was up to the left, 2 spaces, which it could easily be, you could easily fit 2 command centers in here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Different maps are different. But yeah, just the idea of a safe position. So what else? Okay, so you're going to add 2 orbitals. That's something. What else?
2 starports, I would suggest for
All right.
Liberators.
2 starports for libs. Yep, what else? Because in game, like, if we're taking a while to think about it now, imagine when you're microing biomine, your macro is going to be disorganized as shit, right? This is going to be like clockwork. This is going to be something that just springs to mind and we know exactly what to do. Because this is the point in the game where our adrenaline is pumping like a motherfucker, man. Like microing Marines against Banelings, spreading Widow Mines out. Like, it's a very intense point in the game. So,
I mean, I was kind of okay already with my composition. Just lacked a little bit more of power and
what do you mean
targeting.
What do you mean targeting?
Yeah, like I got to I don't got really too much patience at some point. When I don't know what 20 or 30 supply, I just ran up a ramp and ran into banelings. So yeah.
Yeah, but did we finish off all our macro tasks is one of the important things. So we've got to have that memorized. Could you have still won this game without it? Yes. But there's still so much we can do to improve in isolation in our own, right? And
I mean, sure, some bases are definitely oversaturated, and like my main and
so fix saturation. So that's got to be something that you remember to do at this point in the game. Because if you're microing Marines and Mines, you're not going to remember to do that. So you've got to actually have this as a add the starports, add those orbitals, but also fix saturation, move the SCVs around. So that should actually be something we write down here. So we've written that down there in your little notes. What other little points are there that we need to add in? What about upgrades?
Yeah, this time they were pretty late, but normally I always like when I'm kind of finished microing and take a breath, I always click on them and see if they're going or if I can research next level.
Okay, so normally around that same point you'd be adding 3-3, right? Because normally like your 2-2's coming as you're moving out with the push. Sometime after that first big fight happens, 3-3. So we'd start 3-3. Yep.
With mines, I'm actually not sure what to research on the armory. Is it like the armor or?
Yeah, absolutely armor, because armor helps medevacs and liberators as well, and
Okay.
siege tanks and Thors and everything. So 3-3 plus armor upgrades. It's not the most important thing in the world, but it does help a little bit. So yeah, adding those armor upgrades, and that helps later if you end up having to build like Thors versus Broodlords or Vikings versus corruptors and stuff. It actually helps a lot. So armor upgrades, 3-3, cool. Obviously, eventually you can get building armor, high sec auto tracking. It's not high priority though. That's when you've got shit tons of money. So okay, we grabbed some orbitals, we grabbed 2 starports. What about our barracks production? Obviously, in this game, I think you got quite a lot of barracks, but interestingly, you did go almost pure reactor, which is super fucking dangerous. Because that's like normally if you're going pure barracks, you're going kind of all in because all you can build is Marines. And Marines are super fragile to Banes, but they're super fragile to Infestors, Ultras, Banes, and us having a bad micro moment, whereas Marauders are a bit more friendly because they're beefy as fuck, and they're also good versus Banes, good versus Marauders, even if they're good versus Ultras, even if they're a little clumped. So, I mean, normally you go 5 barracks, 4 reactors, 1 tech lab. That's very standard. When do these extra 2 barracks come down, and why are we putting reactors on them, or should we be putting reactors on them?
Wasn't too sure. At this point, I didn't saw ultras, I guess, so far. I don't know. So I thought it was better versus hydras and lynx.
I mean, more Marines is definitely better versus Hydras and Zerglings, potentially, but the problem is Banelings will ruin your day. So they're always going to have Banelings with that. Marauders are a much easier unit to get value out of, especially since you're playing Widow Mines, which already ruin Lings when they come in and stuff. So you just need beefier units to go with those. You're still going to be building a ton of Marines at a time out of all those reactors. Having more Marauders just makes your composition better. So something I've been campaigning with a lot of Terrans for a while is the idea of stop trying to go as Marine heavy as like Maru. And if we can just even if you went 2 tech labs, 3 reactors on your first barracks, like if more Terrans did that, I think it would actually improve most Terran players on the ladder success rate significantly. Because if you're not microing really well, the Marauders are just like so much more, oh, you can make a mistake and it's not as game ending. So personally, I really like the idea of going 3 or 2 more barracks with tech labs just as standard to top off that production. And I'll tell you as a Zerg player, if I'm fighting a like 180, 190 supply versus 190 supply battle versus a Terran, and they have 8 Marauders out front, oh, fuck, I'm scared, man. Because those concussive shells combined with just the wall of meat, the number of fucking Banelings that go down trying to penetrate that wall is insane. So I actually think that's something you're missing here is like there's also a point where as a Zerg, you're remaxing on like Ling Bane or Lings, and you go in and there's just a pack of Marine Marauder and there's like 10 medevacs alive because none of the medevacs have died all game, healing 10 Marauders, and the Terran loses no fucking units in the fight. Like Marauders with medevacs healing them are insane. So I really want us to think of that as just the standard next step. And I think with everything else you're doing, it matches perfectly, dude. It'll be so sick. So 2 more barracks with tech labs rather than reactors has got to be kind of your next step, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So we've got 2 orbitals, we've got starports, we've got fixing your saturation, which is a real big one, and kind of getting those command centers out there, right? So that would have been really awesome, really, really huge, right? If we were able to do that. Because like I said, this 4th command center, that could have been a few thousand more minerals, hey. Yeah. Cool. Now, one thing I noticed here is your rally point is all the way out at your 3rd. I would rather that be at your natural or in between your natural and 3rd, just because this makes it harder for you to defend run-bys when they come at you. Like if they ran in with a bunch of Ling Bane into your natural and main right now, you'd have nothing ready to stop it. What do you think?
Well, actually, my rally point was to my army. I just moved it because there was a run by, if I remember correctly.
Nah, it was always at the 3rd. Unless this was from a very early run by, maybe. But you can see here now, yeah, it's still just all rallied towards the 3rd base. It's a little thing, but yeah. So getting those bases out faster. So we also noticed you went 5 command centers before even adding those 2 barracks, right? So it should probably be 4th command center, then extra barracks, then 5th command center, then starports, right? Something like that. What do you think?
Yeah.
Cool. 4th CC, 2 more barracks, 2 more orbitals, then the starports, and then etc. Okay, cool. That's awesome. All right, sweet as. And then, like I said, extra CCs on location into the corners of the map. Because if we get away with those, there's often a point where the game kind of resets, both armies trade. And if we can just drop 10 mules on a corner base with a planetary on it, it changes everything and gets us another bio remax out and we win the game. But yeah, that's awesome, dude. So more methodical, slow pushing at the front. Make sure you're moving the Widow Mines forward and don't feel so stressed. So what kept happening is you kept going, cool, I killed some army. Let's run my bio way in front of my mines and tanks. And then your mines and tanks were left on their own, right? Because you were like, I got to do stuff. But then we ended up with just mines and they can't do stuff on their own. Whereas if we moved the mines forward methodically and did that, that would have been big. The other thing, and the bigger thing in my opinion, like we said, harass the other side of the map. Slide the drops in, slide the libs in, and that is going to make your life so much better. Dude, you see the Ultra in the replay? It's bugged for you as well, right? Does the Ultra have an attack animation for you? What's on this planetary?
I mean, on my fourth?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has.
Oh, okay. For me, it's just standing there. It doesn't have an attack animation, so it's just looking at the planetary fortress, trying to kill it with its gaze.
Yeah,
Awesome.
giving him the mean look.
Yeah, he's like, I'm so intimidating. I'm not even going to attack. And the hit points are going down in the planetary, which is hilarious. All right, cool. So questions, directions, et cetera. Like, you know, we've talked about so much theory here with this. Like, what else is chewing up your mind? Are we going lib range with the 3 starports, by the way? Because we didn't mention a fusion core.
Yeah, of course. Lib range is always good. I'm actually not sure if I added the fusion core here or if I forgot it, because yeah, normally in my mind I should go like if I add the next starport after the first one, I should add the fusion core straight to it.
So
no
maybe
matter which.
So should we just change it from 2 starports to just a starport and a fusion core? And then it's like, if you've got tons of money, obviously you can throw down a 3rd starport as well, but you probably don't need a 3rd starport, right? It's probably more important to get lib range.
Yeah, 4 liberators at once is, I guess, enough.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a reactor, 3 is actually quite fine as well, right? They build pretty quickly. If you look at a liberator, like the liberators come out very fast. So obviously if you're losing your medevacs, it gets rough. So in this game, notice you've been losing all your medevacs. And things, you know, start to get very awkward with your main army here because you've got 2 red hit point medevacs. So you do need to remember to replace those medevacs in the later game. Likewise, even very high-ranked Terrans always laugh about how sometimes they look and they realize they've got like 17 medevacs and they're like, shit, I should have stopped building those a long time ago, you know? But there's the opposite side of the problem this, where we have no medevacs and we're not building them because we're like, no, starports are for liberators at this point in the game. And that's just as much of an issue. So any other kind of theoretical things? I mean, obviously we've talked for a very long time because there's just been lots of interesting things and details to kind of map out with this standard TvZ game plan here. Is there, what's in your mind right now? What are we thinking about? Are there questions that need to be answered?
No, not too much. I just remember I had one question, but I can't remember the question actually. So it can't be that important.
Well, I mean, obviously we took a long time here and we're not going to get into live games, which I think is totally fine because I honestly think it's more value getting these points down. But in future, if, you know, I'm going on, feel free to remind me and go, okay, I actually do really want to get into a live game today. And that's a big goal. Otherwise, if I find juicy details, I'm just going to talk about them, write down the notes and go with it. So just keep that in mind for future sessions. We've only got a few minutes left, so let's kind of look at your notes on your other matchups, your other replays here. If you want, we could zoom through another replay quickly and take a glance.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's hop out of this one then.
Many of the other replays, when I looked closer at them, it was really like I got too often supply blocked, so my army was too small, and I just got steamrolled in the end.
That does happen.
Let's see. I think the lurker one wasn't that bad.
No. Yeah, I think you had some really good little analysis notes here. I think that the big thing which I've added in my analysis there to that replay, for instance, and the big thing that you should be trying to look for is, rather than just listing out a bunch of individual mistakes, I mean, that's very helpful. But I think like the overall problem in that last game was there was a point where you just didn't know how to exert pressure on your opponent and you just kept kind of pushing down the
Yeah,
same path, but you didn't have a plan.
brick wall.
Yeah, you kind of so I think the real big like the power point of what can I do to play better here? What can you tell yourself? It's about making sure you have a strategic direction for that point, because there was a point where there's infinite mistakes in every StarCraft game, right? And you still had plenty of mistakes in your early to mid game, but you had a direction. So they weren't that impactful, right? It wasn't until you weren't sure what to do and you just started kind of walking into the meat grinder, because you'd already killed the 2 bases on the top, and you just kept pushing into this area where you weren't really threatening any economy, and you just started kind of getting jumbled up, right? And you weren't kind of adding your macro as well and stuff. So what's lacking there is not the individual mistakes, it's the direction. It's you going, well, fuck, I killed 2 bases, but I haven't won the game. How do I win the game? So that was the big power point, and that's where we say, well, this push is still creating a big threat. Use it to hit all the bases with drops, with the Liberators. That's your strategic direction. Fucking, yeah. And then you suddenly feel like you're doing stuff in the game, right? And that's when you can kind of explode into 5 bases and take the corners, and you start doing more because you feel more motivated, because you've got a direction and kind of how you're building your advantage. So like I feel like that should give you a bit more focus in games like that. Do you get the same feeling, or do you think you'll just be just as lost the next time you're in that same scenario?
Gets better bit by bit things, and the early and mid game is kind of okay, because I got it mapped out and planned out, and if I as soon as I hit the late game, it's no direction really. It's like, okay, I could try this, I could try that, or I got a general idea what to do, but no, let's say master plan.
Okay, so once again, your barracks are really disorganized. That's the big PowerPoint. So we did mention that a few weeks ago, and we mentioned it again at the start of today. This mid-game minerals here, this like not early mid-game, late early game, those 4 barracks going down a bit quicker and not being as fancy with your add-on swaps is going to be huge. That's going to be such a force multiplier for you, because like I said, you're consistently spending a lot of APM on those add-on swaps and taking just a while to get the bio explosion going. You did do a lot better with the add-on swaps this time, but then we also add a random barracks count on here, I think. Oh no, that's a factory. Okay, that does make more sense. So we're going a quicker second factory. Wait, we always go the factory at that time actually, right? Because you go 1 with reactor, 1 with tech lab, and we go 3 siege tanks into drilling claws, exact same as last game. You said you go 2, you go 3. Correction, you think you go 2, but apparently you always go 3 tanks, at least in these 2 replays. Your 2-2 started right on time this time around. You've got your 4th CC on the way. This is looking pretty methodical, dude. I'm really impressed. The question is, where do you push? So your main army looks a little bit confused about where it's going. You know where his 4th base is. I guess you can push this path. I would always go for the 4th because it's more exposed personally. And I would have tried to push down here. You see where I'm signaling?
Yeah.
Just because pushing to that actual 3rd, it's so far back. So that's my feeling. We're maxed out now. Holy shit. Fuck, are we maxed? We have a lot of Marines. Oh my god. But our production's not there yet. We're maxed with a lot of money, but we don't have the production there. We've also got double drop on the top and a drop on the bottom. So the double drop on the top doesn't do anything here, right? That should either just rejoin the army or it should be on the south.
Suicides in a few seconds.
Yeah, well, there's no reason for it to be there, right? Like, if it's there, its job should be hiding and then flying into the back of the natural or the 3rd when he engages on your front army, right? But there's no reason for it to just be unloading there. I guess like I can see why you did it, but your main army's already up here. So like this was just a nonsense multi-prong, right? Because it's like your main army's already forced him to put most of his defense up here, and then you try to do a cheeky run by through his main army defense.
I recognize when I pulled my army up, it was like, well.
Yeah, so for me, I think this is something we always come back to, and I always come back to. A lot of my TvZs are thrown because I just push into a random position without thinking about it. If you'd pushed down here, that drop could have gone in the main, and then this double drop actually would have made sense. Because if your army's sieged up out front this 4th, there's no way he has all these lurkers up here, and that double drop suddenly becomes really effective. So just make sure you're a little bit more organized, I think, with those sort of pushes. Now, did you know it was lurkers at this point?
Yeah, when I ran my army into it, I recognized it then.
Okay, because once, I mean, even when you know it's Roach Hydra, which you actually saw quite earlier, if you just go tanks from there, it's like obviously better against that if you just swap your reactor onto a tech lab. But because our production's not there, we've got a crazy amount of money and we've just kind of been chilling with our army, not making any plays right now. So we're in a really hard position, right? I think you're waiting for your 2-2. But it's like we could have had 4 more command centers down, barracks, starports, etc., right? So I think we just need to be a little bit more focused on making those plays. So maybe you should have just been committed a lot harder to this push. Like this push, all right, get in there, siege up, force the fucking fight, let's go. If you do that now, what's he got right now? His Vipers have just popped out. They don't actually have energy yet. He's got a pack of Roaches and Hydras. You can hit 3 places at once. He's just starting to add his spines and whatnot. A drop could hit the main. He's going to struggle with that. But instead, we're kind of maxed out, and then we're just going to kind of chill. So if you have a chill on max out, you've got to play differently. So just make sure you make a note for yourself, okay? If you do play a slow game like this, you're embracing the late game. If you're ever just chilling on max, what are the most important things? I've got a little priority list in your document. See where I've written that?
Yeah.
I want you to write out a few notes of what you think are the most important things. If you're in this sort of situation, we're just poking and prodding, trying to be efficient, adding some upgrades, etc. What should you be focusing on? Any time where you're not carrying the momentum, but you're slowing the game down like in this map. More orbitals, more production, very good points. So basically that same kind of late game production list that we talked about before probably comes in straight away, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then we want to really just prepare, right, for what's going on next. So you want to take bases a lot more aggressively, as well. And that Tasia game especially, like anytime if you sink into this situation, often what you do against lurkers is you'll move forward, siege up an annoying position, and go, come fight me, dickhead. You just give him the finger. And that's a lot of what Terran versus Lurker is. It's the same as TvT. You move forward, siege up your tanks, and go, come and fight this. And hopefully your opponent's dumb enough to fight into your tanks. And the Zerg is doing the same thing with Lurkers. Comes up, sieges his Lurkers, he's like, please come fight. Both of you have very good defender's advantage, and neither of you can really break the other's positions. It's not directly possible. So how do you win? Well, you just keep clearing creep, moving around, force them to be kind of running around defensively, take a billion bases, and as Tasia showed us, not be watching your army and get all your siege tanks killed by lurkers in one moment of inattention, and then come back by running, a ton of bio around and going, oh, there's only 3 lurkers here with no support. Scan, kill base, kill another base, run away. And you can just take advantage of their immobility because they don't have enough supply efficiency or mobility with this composition, and you can take it out. Cool. Well, we are running out of time, my mate, so we've got to finish up here. I think it's good to think with how much macro I see in all your builds. I do think the force multiplier is the idea of, okay, you're sieging up pushes, but let's not get as tunnel visioned on them, and let's just keep hitting mineral lines with those drops and stuff and keep expanding. If you can keep queuing drops or liberators into bases, even if you don't micro them and every now and then an 8 marine drop gets killed, if you're still taking expansions behind it, if you're a bit more consistent at adding on that extra production and stuff that we talked about, I think you're going to have a lot more success in this matchup. So it should really carry you forward.
Nice.
Sorry, you cut out there. What was that? Sorry, your microphone cut out.
I just said nice.
Oh, nice. Okay, sorry. Maybe it did catch it all. Just kind of clipped off the end. Awesome. All right. So yeah, just get into the ladder. Good luck with your practice with that, mate. So I'm still a big fan of if you do sink into very aggressive wild plays for a few weeks. But so if you do get into that at some point, definitely start mapping out the build orders, or even now, if you're just doing it a few games a day, start mapping out the build orders for each one, just so it's a little bit more detailed in terms of, and then, when it gets shut down, go, what's the hardest tech switch to try to take advantage of that counter? How could I gamble on something completely different? And then we can go over those at some point, maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a month, whenever. But yeah, for now, good luck with the macro TvZ. Hopefully we can just grind our opponents down, just keep expanding, just keep setting up those sieges around the maps, and hopefully let our opponents kill themselves on us. So good luck with TvZ, and I hope you start to find some success there, mate.
Yo, thanks.
All right, man. Good night. I'll catch you later.
Yeah, see ya.